to our feet. Look, we're going to go to we're going to go to two books. We're going to go to Exodus, the 16th chapter, and then we're just going to flip over to Joshua, the 5th chapter, 10th verse. When you get it, say, still saved. Exodus 16, and we're going to go to verse 4. Then we're going to go to Joshua 5. Then we're going to go to verse 10. When you get it, say, still saved. Come on, I need some more still savers. Exodus 16. If you're looking for Exodus in the New Testament, you have gone too fast. Exodus 16, verse 4. Then we're going to go to Joshua 5, verse 10. When you get it, say still saved. Still saved. All right, so look, I'll read and then you'll follow. So Exodus 16 says, Then the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. On the 6th day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days. Let's go to Joshua 5, verses 10. And the children of Israel encamped at Gilgal, and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month, and even in the plains of Jericho. And they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover, unleavened cakes and parched corn in the selfsame day. And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna anymore, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. Amen. Lord, add a blessing to the reading and to the hearing of his most holy word. Amen. Our sermonic theme is you gotta adjust. Okay? You got to adjust. All right? Now, let's be clear here that the Bible is full of what we call spiritual movements. You see that different circumstances require different leadership, right? And they require different means of acting, right? They require different procedures simply because the circumstances have changed, right? And so it's important that when we read the Bible, we look at this ever-evolving change of circumstances. But we also see how the people of God adjusted to the circumstances. Right. Now you can see this if we go to the most basic spiritual movement. We move from Adam and Eve in the garden to Adam and Eve out of the garden. So they moved from a state of plenty, of having everything at their fingertips, to now moving to a new place because of sin, and now having to work extra hard. Right? So the things that was given to them in the garden, they lose out on outside the garden. Now, it's the same God, but it's different circumstances. Right, and so what happens then is that now humanity that has been created, the creation now has to adjust to a new set of circumstances, which is sin that runs through the bones and through the blood. Right. So that state of perfection has now changed to imperfection. So now we have to adjust. Right. And that's the challenge, right? And that's the challenge, being able to adjust to new circumstances, to new opportunities. Right. Now, our lives, church, are the epitome of changing circumstances and challenges. Right? Look, in these days, a long-term employee can get laid off just like that. Amen? I know I got my Bowen people in here, Sister Smith, Deacon Turner, Sister Burke, retirees. With this new plane thing that have happened, Bowen gonna have to adjust. Because them lawsuits is coming, amen? And they feeling that this could be extremely detrimental to the company and its processes. Now, they may not have seen it when they first put out the plan. But now with what has happened, now they have to adjust. Right? Right. And so the challenge, you can have years of commitment, right? Or years of family. I always say, it seems now that family has become just confined to pictures and videos because people have passed on. Amen. I was in a conversation, my wife was here with my nephew yesterday as we're dealing with the change now in the death of my father-in-law, right? And what it meant to my nephew, who was basically raised by my father-in-law, right? So now he has to adjust, and it's a difficult adjustment, especially for somebody that's just barely over 20. Right. And so these circumstances and these changes come, right? Love that was supposed to last forever now face the challenges of togetherness, where we dealing with sickness, or whether it's infidelities, or children with our strong expectations for them become victims to the challenges, or the complacency, or crime, or drug-infested lives. Right? Where we now have a parent who reveled in the joy of seeing a child strive for excellence. Now having to walk into a courtroom and say, don't hurt him that bad. Right? It's an adjustment of circumstance. As painful as it is, as challenging as it is, it has to occur because what used to be is no longer that. Right. So circumstances occur, whether we want them to happen or not, but the question for saints is, can we respond in faith? Come on. When plagued with no money, sickness, or even the death of a loved one, will we trust God to overcome? Right. Will God still emerge as the answer? Right. That's the challenge now. That's the challenge. Because the circumstances are going to change. It's your response to the circumstances that has to change. How will you respond to it? Will you let it overtake you? Will it let it push you away from faith, push you away from church? Or will you become destructive within the church body? Right. Simply because there's a void that has not been filled. Right. Look. And the Bible is full of personas that had to adjust. Because if they tried to fight in the same way with the previous circumstances, they would have continued to be overcome, by the circumstances. The disciples were not fighting the same battle as the Hebrew children were in the Exodus to the Promised Land. They weren't. Right? They can learn from it, but they've got a different set of circumstances. Right? And the ones that in the time of Jesus, if you go through the gospel, the challenge is that people that still stuck on Moses. Right? Acts talks about a group that's still stuck on John the Baptist. Jesus done come, he has died, he has been beaten, he has died, he has risen from the dead, and there's still a group still looking for John the Baptist. They can't let it go. Right? So the circumstances have changed, and you can get lost and overcome and overtaken by the circumstance. You must understand that life is not going to be a straight line. Right? If it was, wouldn't that be great? I knew exactly what was going to happen tomorrow. Right now, we walk in tomorrow like, man, I don't know what's going to happen today, Lord. I mean, thank you for getting me through yesterday, but can you get me through tomorrow? Because it'll be a different set of circumstances. Now, Exodus had a set of circumstances of a people who had been enslaved and who had been calling out for God. They are now released, and they now have this journey to travel to the promised land. Okay? But what's the challenge? Food. Okay? The Lord is going to rain down bread from heaven. Right? So they have the circumstances of travel and getting to a place called the promised land. But in the process, they need food and sustenance to be able to get them there. Right? Now, it wasn't no rain down of manna prior to. But I have to have manna right now for this people. And it's also a means of testing them to see if they can follow the instructions. Because when they get to the promised land, you're going to have a whole new set of instructions. And if you can't get through the Exodus dilemma, you're going to be lost in Joshua. Right? And that's the challenge too. Because the challenge that churches go through because the circumstances change. Gentrification has completely changed the neighborhood. Right? Our neighbors are moved here because of the value that the church gives to their property. But yet they can't come to church. Come on, talk to me, somebody. Right? So the circumstances have changed. Where it was easier, and this is not just Seattle, where it was easier, where we crossed the nation, where we just had access to a demographic that came up and knowing and loving church. You've got a different group out here now. You mentioned a deacon to them, they don't even know what a deacon is. You mentioned communion to them, they don't even know what communion is. So it's a change of circumstances. So how you preach to them, how we may have operated and preached in times in the past, we deal with a different set of circumstances. You have a different change in governmental leadership. You have a different change in benefits. You have a different changes in family stability. We all of us, whether it be me or you, me and my first cousins, we grew up like brother and sister. Everybody was all centered in the same area on the south side of Chicago. My aunties, they watched each other's kids, right? I can show you old pictures where me and my cousin, we got on the same suit, the same shoes, had the same haircut, right? They went up to Sears and bought them suits, 2 and 3 for $1, and we all wore them and we all looked the same. Come on, talk to me, somebody. I have trouble now finding suits. People that holler, look, you go to the courthouse, people ain't even wearing suits no more, except for judges and lawyers. And it had become now a change in the mentality, right? But the gospel still has to go forward. I keep saying, gosh, you can't fight a color TV world with a black and white TV. Oh, help me, Holy Ghost. Yeah, I share this with you. In my wife's car, they don't even have a place to play a CD. Are you kidding me? No place to play, no place to play. It's been a change, right? Okay? But we adjust into the circumstances. Look, the scripture here, the Israelites, they spent several years in the wilderness. Manna came from heaven so that even in the midst of these circumstances, God still fed them. What does this mean? Even though we are in the circumstances, God still blesses. Right? Even though the circumstances change, God does not abandon the circumstances. God's still there. Come on, I lose my job, but there's still food on the table. There's sickness in my body, but I'm still getting up in the morning. I'm grieving because of death, but I still have the will to persevere. I am abandoned, but I still got Jesus. Right? Right? Our circumstance had changed, but God, it's us that run from God. Lord, why you have to change like this? Everything was so good. Now you go and change up. Now we have to be able to look at it differently. Look, it's not just the God that had them in the wilderness. He didn't depart from them. Through the history of the Bible, they wanted a king. They got David. They needed wisdom. They got Solomon. They needed encouragement. They got Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel. We needed a Savior. We got Jesus Christ. We needed inspiration. Then we got Peter and Paul. I had to go from now from Christ to now a post-Christ mindset. We wasn't going to be able to run up and touch the hem of his garment. But now we feel him in our soul on the inside. Oh, help me, Holy Ghost. Come on, verse 12. Still saved? Come on. The manna stopped the day after. They ate this food from the land. There was no longer any manna from the Israelites. But that year they ate the produce of Canaan. Now, this is a generation of people who were used to not having to work for food. Of all the things they had to endure, food was taken, and enduring for food was taken off the table. Right? Okay, now they can rely every day on the manna from heaven, and now the supply has been cut off. Right, so imagine this now. This is what I'm used to, but now the circumstances have changed. Right? Now, you can be real about it. When the circumstances change, it does upset you. Right? Because now you got to do something different. Right? Because it's going to require a different energy than what you had. But also, too, what they were dealing with at that time, they didn't have to deal with. They weren't talking about the journey no more. Now they are stable in a stable land. Right? Manna from heaven would hurt them instead of helping them. They had to now dig in now for the crops and the beauty of the land. Why go all that way for the land of milk and honey? And you're still trying to bring what you had on your journey. Now you're in the land of milk and honey, enjoy it. That was the challenge. Right? But now to enjoy it, it required now a different set of factors. You got to work differently. You got to operate differently. Look, this story, I saw this story, I believe I've shared with you before, but I was watching the news. There was one time I was in Chicago, this house fire in Chicago, and the owner of the house was an elderly lady, and she died in the fire. Okay? Now, she had a son who had lived with her that was not at home at the time of the fire. It was clear in the interview that he had no job. Okay? And nothing. And with tears in his eyes, he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. The circumstances change. Okay? He had moved into his mother's house. We don't know for what reasons. We can think of them. We can speculate. We can think about them. But for whatever it was, his meal ticket, his place, his covering was now gone. I don't know now what I'm going to do. The circumstances had changed. That bread that came from heaven was now gone. Now we have to adjust. And this is what happens in our own lives. Right? When the sickness or the death, when these things hit us, we have to adjust. Are there tears we cry? Oh, sure there are. Is it hurt and pain we feel? Oh, yes, it is. But we don't let it stop us or prevent us from the blessing to come. Some of us push forward, either it's physical pain or we push forward with spiritual pain. Nevertheless, we push forward. Because to become stagnant is to become dead. Because we become stuck in that moment. If this brother continues to stay at that burned up house, right, what food and sustenance will he get? And he will then be denied the opportunity to change. Why does God do this? In order to appreciate it, now you got to work for the food. You now have to pick up, and you have to pick the fruit of the tree. You have to till the land to get the crop. All across this land, churches face new issues that they did not have to prior. Right? Come on, we have a generation that's learning everything by video. Okay? Boy, that was years. I mean, I remember in we call it grammar school, elementary school. There was a competition to see how many books you could get in your backpack and carry them home. We probably got back problems to this day for all them books we carry back and forth. My son can access whole books just on the internet. Don't have to do that no more. Look, there was a time, seriously, I remember learning in typing class. I had this teacher. She do F, 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 D, D, D. Had a melody going with learning to type in all of these classes, right? But then we still had to know and learn how to write in cursive. They type in everything. When I turn in a document for the court, I don't even have to sign it. I have an email signature on it to eliminate what we used to have to do. Now to make it easier so we could do and focus on other things. Right. Look. When the demographics are not in our favor, you still have to work harder to get there. Once bountiful things and people whom you used to see every day at work or in your neighborhood, as that has changed, the responsibility to evangelize and share the love of Christ has not. We just can't look for the prototype that we have seen growing up. The standard person who have been in the church all of their lives, who knows something about the Bible, who can say the Lord is my shepherd. You're dealing with a different group now. Same gospel. And even though they don't look like what you hope to look like, do they look like they are in need of the gospel of Jesus Christ? We should take circumstances as an opportunity instead of running from them as these challenges that we can't overcome. The scripture always comforts us. With weeping may endure for a night, but joy come in the morning. The Bible is always comforting when it says there's no weapon formed against us that shall prosper. It doesn't mean against us in a certain time, at a certain moment. It means for while we are walking and living this thing, God got us. He will not leave us, nor will He forsake us. God got us. And even though those challenges come and those changes occur, still we have the strength and the tenacity to push on through. It's up to us whether we continue to look back and say, we wish that it would look like this again. Huh? Adam and Eve probably had that same issue. Boy, we wish we could get that garden back again. The garden's gone, baby. It's gone. Now, if you want to eat, you better tell your husband to get that plow and plow that land. And these sons you got now, they better get to work too. Because you got to eat. And yet, even in the midst of this first family still said, we're going to sacrifice to God. Even though we can't go back to that, we are still going to give God the praise and give God the sacrifice. That may be over, but our future is brighter ahead of us. That's the challenge of moving forward. Oh, I'm just in a Chicago kind of way today. I'll get out of this soon. And when I show up to work tomorrow, it'll quickly snap me back. But look, I'm in this thing here, and we have these kids out in our complex, and I'm watching them. It just gives me memories of learning how to ride a bike. Right? And my mother, she was a single parent, And so, but she was really good at getting my uncles and my cousins over to have her sons around good, providing men. And I had an uncle who said he could fix everything. I don't know that it worked out that way. But I had a banana seat bike, if you remember that. I felt like the seat on the bike weighed more than the whole bike. He was there to teach me how to ride the bike. It was time to take the training wheels off, right? I could no longer do the training wheels. It was time to ride the bike, right? Now I'm on that bike. If I would ride a little bit, I'll fall over, and my uncle would pick me up. What he would do here now, you know, remember the banana seat bike, it had a hook on the back. And so while you're riding, right, they could hold you up by that hook on the bike. His hand was that strong. He'd give me a light push. But one time I got to going, I got all the way down the block, and then the bike fell down. So I was expecting him to come help me, but he told me I could do it. So now I had to figure this thing out without the help of my uncle. He was refusing to help. He knew for my future, for my betterment, I got to let my nephew do this on his own. I would get on that bike and I fall over. And when you fall over in Chicago, it's like everybody on the block comes out to watch you fall over. Now, but pretty soon, I learned the balance, right? I wasn't perfect at it, but if I wanted to ride that bike, I had to learn how to put my weight in a place to balance. There was a time where I said, look, I still need you now. I still need you. And I remember starting off riding that bike, and I was going. And then I looked back, and my uncle wasn't there. So I fell over. But I know that I could do it if I just kept trying. I had to adjust. I had to adjust my weight and let it push through. But he taught me how to ride. So when the circumstances changed, I had to regain my balance and get on down the road if I want to ride the bike. Same with you in your life. When the circumstance change, right? You got to get your balance. Right? It's meant to throw you off now. It is meant to hurt. It's meant to throw you off. But keep riding. Right? The church, you know, whether we get hit with death or whether we get hit with issues here and there, keep riding. Right? Because when we refuse to get up on the bike, we ain't going nowhere. We'll stay stuck on the block forever. But we get on there and keep riding. God will ride with us. Look at what God has done with you already. In deaths that have hurt you, you still here. In heartbreak that's supposed to take you down, you still here. Through abuse and backstabbing and being talked about, you still here. Through the defaming of your name, through the gossiping, through all of that, yet you still here. You still ride. How can you not ride if you got a Savior, that wouldn't get off the cross? He wouldn't let go of the beating. He wouldn't let go of the whipping. He kept his balance. He died on Friday, but rose on Sunday. We saw a risen Savior. Oh, that kept his balance through the end. Come on, let's give God praise for his holy word.